Let's talk to you today about how you can paint trees in your acrylic portrait. I'm going to do a demonstration for you. I'm working on this 20 by 24 acrylic portrait of a couple. This is a commission project and it's pretty far along. It's actually getting fairly close to completion, but there's quite a bit of work I need to do yet on the trees on the left-hand side. And I want to show you how to do that using the acrylic glazing technique. Before we begin though, let me dive in with a word of prayer and we'll get started. Father, I ask that you would bless this painting and this session where I'm teaching the students here today. Help them to learn the skill of using the glazing technique that they can incorporate in their own painting. And I just pray you bless this painting, that I could do this excellently for the client. In Jesus' name, amen. All right, so we're gonna dive into this process. I also want to give you a free gift as well. Just for watching this channel, just to say thank you. I'd like you to download my free guide, and it's called Fix Muddy Skin Tones in Your Acrylic Portrait. Something that many artists struggle with. You can download that free guide today. It'll be in the top comment of the video or in the description. And if you have any issues downloading it or anything comes up, just let me know. But you can print it out. It's going to show you how to fix muddy skin tones, how to keep them from happening. It's just a nice short PDF guide with a few pages, and you can print it out, set it up next to your canvas, keep it as a handy reference tool. My gift to you just for watching the video today. All right, now let's dive into the demonstration. So we've got on the left-hand side these trees here that started off with a few simple glazes. And let's zoom in here. So in the background I have a lot more detail there. And I just start blocking everything in pretty loosely. And then over time I add more and more detail to it. So that's what I want to do today. You could still probably see the sketch lines if we zoom in pretty close. I don't know if you can see that, but there's just some little sketch lines around the edges here. But again, this is just kind of blocked in with these simple value shapes. And that's your first step, is you want to just kind of sketch in the loose outline. Look at your reference photo, and we have the reference photo here. And you want to see the overall distinctions where it's a little bit darker. All right, a little bit darker. Identify the shapes, what that creates, like what kind of shape it is. And then with that, you can replicate that on your canvas. You want to take what you're seeing, the complexity of it, simplify it. All right, I'm just kind of outlining here with the end of my brush. You can see these distinctions in value that I'm observing on the reference photo. And a lot of portrait painting or painting anything realistically, the first step is to identify what you're seeing in your reference photo, or if you're doing it from life. And then after you do that, you can simplify it, make it more abstract, put that abstraction on your canvas, and then add the detail in later, add more complexity later. So it usually works best when you start off very, very simple and then move from simple to complex. Now, I've got some matte medium on my palette. We're going to dive in. I'm going to actually show you part of this process. I can't show you the whole thing in this video because the glazing technique, it takes several hours to do, but I just want to show you this portion of it. And I should have some other videos up showing the process of this painting where you can see some of that as well. But we're going to take some phthalo blue. I like that color. It's a really, really nice, rich color. And then I add some Indian yellow, and that just gets me a nice green. Now I know you could probably get a Viridian green or, Hooker's green, or there's sap green. There's a lot of different greens you could purchase. I just like to make my own, keep my palette as simple as possible. Especially, I'm not a landscape painter, so, I don't have to use green all the time. So I just use blue and yellow. But you can also add some ultramarine blue, raw sienna, and those colors will kind of add more complexity to this green. Maybe tone down the vibrance a little bit. So you can alternate between adding those colors. You can also add some titanium white to give a little opacity to the glaze, because even though we're doing the glazing technique, sometimes it helps to make the color application a little bit thicker or a little more opaque. So you don't have to do as many layers after you've done the underpainting. All right, so I'm going to zoom in here and you'll be able to get a closer look. Excuse me. I don't really do a lot of video editing, so I apologize for that. Let's try to do this teaching for you as I'm working on my commission projects or other fine art projects, and just put it up there on YouTube to bless you and encourage you and to show you what you can do with your own paintings. So anyway, I have this color, like I said, ultramarine blue, Indian yellow, or sorry, phthalo blue and Indian yellow. And I'm just going to apply this over the top. And what we're doing is kind of just adding a little more richness to it. I'm going to actually have to stand on my stool. Now, I'm a tall guy. I'm 6'3", but I have a step stool here, and I need to actually get up higher because there's some glare that, you know, just based on the angle of my lights on the ceiling. And when I'm painting, all I see is the glare. But when I get up to this angle, then I don't see it, and that really helps. Okay, so what we're doing then is we are just adding these glazes up above some of the shaded areas. We're kind of segueing out of the shadows into the highlights, and these are kind of becoming midtones in a sense, though we will put some highlights on top. Then as we do this, we're mindful of our reference photo, and we're trying to, you know, get some texture implied in there by just, you know, using the edge of the brush. Now let's zoom in here a little closer. And I might have to adjust my microphone. Just so that, I apologize for any microphone noise, but I have to raise this up because I'm standing up higher. And if I don't do that, my voice might have a little distortion. Okay, that's better. All right, so we are, again, using kind of the corner of the brush and just chiseling some areas in here. Just chiseling in some little pockets of detail, and at the same time we're getting these midtones, but we're adding, you know, some vibrance to this color. And I'm just doing this based on what I see in the reference photo. Now this is a little bit of a different way of painting, because a lot of times people that are painting foliage, painting trees, will instead do well, they'll just, you know, they'll put the branches in first, then they'll put some leaves on top of leaves and, you know, layer it like that. But we're actually just breaking this down to color fields and the form, you know, of these different values, these different shapes. And so I'm not trying to actually paint leaves on top of leaves, but just an overall sense of what's going on. And then I will add more detail, and hopefully with that give it a sense of there's actually some leaves on there. That's kind of the last step. You know, after we get some of these midtones in, then I come in with some highlights, and I will pick out some leaves with a smaller brush and give it some more detail. But this is just part of the process. Now, the color I'm using here, so again, phthalo blue, Indian yellow, intentionally because that's a very vibrant color. And you'll notice it's more vibrant than the background. In the background I used some ultramarine blue and some raw sienna, and those colors, I added that with this phthalo blue and Indian yellow mix and a bit of titanium white. So the background, again, I use these same colors plus ultramarine blue, and that's more of an indigo kind of blue, raw sienna, that's that kind of earthy tone right here, and a little bit of titanium white. And with the addition of those colors in a small portion, I'm mixing this all together with this clear matte medium. That's how we do the glazes. We make it translucent. Then together, that really gives it a more subdued look. So we have that contrast between, you know, these cool tones here and the trees in the background, and then these are warmer, and we want the warmer colors in front because warm pops out, cooler colors recede. And if I look at the reference photo, I'm seeing the same thing going on. Colors a little cooler in the background, warmer colors in the front. So yeah, just something I want to point out to you there with that. Now let's zoom back in here. So again, I'm just getting a little bit of color, a little bit of texture here. And if you're curious as to what these glazes look like, you know, apart from the painting, this is what it looks like. I have what I call a white card here. I know, wonderful name. That's because this is a white card. But anyway, I'm applying this glaze. Same glaze I'm using on the painting, that's what it looks like. So you can see that it is semi-transparent. If I go over these other glazes on this white card, you can see what that looks like. All right. You can see right through it. You can see right through it. Very, very transparent. And so that's what the glazing technique can do for you. You just kind of build everything up a little bit here and a little bit there over time, and it just comes together. All right, so now I want to add a little more richness down here below, so we're going to do that. Blend these together. All right, that's good. And so we step out and you can see kind of what's going on there. Now let's just do a little bit of work on the trees in the background. And there I'm going to show you that mixture that I was talking about. We're going to add some ultramarine blue, okay, to the same mix, and a little bit of raw sienna. All right, we've got that raw sienna right there. We add that in. All right, so now that's going to make the color a little bit more subdued. Add just a bit of titanium white. All right, so now take that color, we can work into the background. Now we can't just apply it any place we want. It has to have a certain rhyme and reason to it. So I have to decide, am I doing the shadows, these little tiny dark shapes that we see in the reference photo? Just zoom in here. Am I doing, you know, the shadows in here, the little dark shapes, or am I doing kind of the darker values overall? Small shapes, large shapes. Trying to distinguish between those two elements. Okay, so in this case, we'll see this mixture looks like it's probably going to be better for these darker shapes, but it's maybe a little lighter, so maybe we can do some of the lighter shapes within those areas. These little shadows that just describe, you know, the areas where you know, there's not any leaves, and it makes these shadowed areas, and there's many of them, you know, because the trees are in the distance. And so we're trying to see those shapes, and, you know, looking at the reference photo and interpreting what we see. But, you know, a lot of times you could be tempted just to put down some quick patterns, and you don't want to do that. You want to get a sense of randomness. And so I see that there is one section, like right here, the tree's a little darker overall, and that breaks it up. So this one here is a little darker, and I want to see if there's anything like that anywhere else. Like right here it gets a little darker, so we'll just add a bit of that glaze. And the nice thing is with the glazing technique, if you use a very light amount of pressure on your brush, you can get less paint to come off of the brush. And if you use a heavy amount of pressure, then you can get that to actually appear quite a bit thicker and darker. So it does give you a degree of control, even apart from mixing your color on the palette, as far as how it's going to appear on your canvas. So if you've never tried the glazing technique, I would encourage you to try it. I mean, I have enough videos here just on my YouTube channel for free that you could really give it a shot and try it out. You could always take one of my paid classes as well in my school if you want to go deeper. But boy, you could just learn a lot just on this channel. And I've had many students that have shown me their paintings, and they've never taken one of my paid classes. They've just learned from what I've had on YouTube, and I'm like, well, that's great. You know, if you're able to learn just from that, fantastic. Some students would like a little more hand-holding, so to speak, or just a little more of a step-by-step approach and, you know, critiques and that kind of thing. And so they opt for the paid classes. But yeah, I would encourage you to give it a shot, because even if you don't make this technique your own, like what you do all the time, it's a good technique to have just for certain times when you need to adjust the color of a certain area, or you want to get some additional shading on top of even an opaque painting. It's a good technique to know. So yeah, so I'm kind of sold on this glazing technique. You know, I learned it many years ago, and it really revolutionized my experience with acrylic. I probably wouldn't even be doing acrylic today if it were not for this glazing technique that I learned. Boy, how many years ago was that? 28, 29 years ago. I date myself with that, but that was when I was back in high school, and I took this summer art camp and took this intensive class, and that's where I learned it. And boy, it sure changed everything. Well, I'm seeing, you know, some distinct shapes here, and just again trying to replicate what I see in the reference photo as much as possible without going crazy. And yeah, looks like we can probably do a few more of those pockets of detail, but I'm gonna put this video to a close here. I don't want it to get too long here on YouTube. Most YouTube videos do best when they're about 10-ish minutes, so I'm going to close this video down right here, and I just want to say thank you very much for watching. I hope this has been beneficial, helpful to you. Again, this is where I'm at with this acrylic portrait, 20 by 24. I'm liking how it looks. I thank God for what He's enabled me to achieve with this, and I know God can help you to achieve beautiful paintings as well in your studio. So get in touch with me, drop me a comment here, let me know what you thought of this video. Let me know if you're thinking that you might use a glazing technique, and if you have any questions, just write me a comment. I'm trying to really get better at responding to all of my comments on YouTube, and so I'd love to hear from you. Thank you so much for watching. God bless, and we'll see you in another video real soon. Take care.